The project that we speak of is falls and home design. And then we'll go into the background and literature review. In my research about falls prevention, I had learned that there really isn't that much about home design in relation to falls prevention. Looking at falls, and for those severe falls that we talked about, that 36.3 million, these are some of the things that had happened to them. Not only are we talking severe injuries, we're also talking about, as we mentioned, the PEO question, activities of daily living, how it affects the participation. In the research, we've seen that fear of falling is a huge, huge thing. And fear of falling can lead to reduced participation in activities. What I used for our guiding theory. Person elements were their history of falling, the things that they value and are interested in, routines, habits of theirs. And then environment, looking at the lighting, looking at the sliding doors, the width of the doors, and everything around them, including people who are there to help them. We focused entirely on independent living facilities because, also as found in the research, there isn't much of anything related to independent living facilities and the home design, especially home design for independent living facilities. There's a little bit on nursing homes and assisted living, but nothing on independent living facilities, likely because people aren't focused on falls prevention in independent living facilities. As I did the recruitment process, when I asked people to participate or staff members, they're like, oh, you don't want us. You want the assisted living or nursing home, or I can direct you to the memory care. And so a lot of the focus again is on secondary prevention, which is looking after the person has fallen. But as Emily and I have found, it is much more viable to look and much more low cost and effective if you start early on. The needs assessment that we looked at for this group, the independent living facilities, what we mostly found from them is that how they address falls is, again, exercise classes and PT/OT on referral. So that means that PT and OT is more like if someone asks about it. What some people had stated that they will do it just like as an introduction, but usually they have the nursing staff or nursing nurse talk to the seniors and do an assessment. And then the typical layout includes the handrails in the bathroom, commode. Some people said commode, not everyone. And then low threshold shower entrances. Let me move our Zoom box again. And the emergency pool cords. And so all of this information that we got from this needs assessment, we then use that to help us decide on our IRB questions, IRB kind of looking at what we really want to target. So then that takes us to doing the IRB process. And before I get into just the IRB, that is just one part of what we did for our capstone. The full capstone included these 5 elements, or should I say 4 other elements, which is the presentations for gadgets and gizmos for staff, also seniors, but mainly staff, and then the fall prevention presentation that I did in person with seniors at a senior center. And it was an interactive presentation that you'll later see. And then grant writing. So this is all Emily. She did all the grant writing, but I just got to see a little bit of it and then provide feedback. And then the falls prevention public service announcements that I got to learn a lot about graphic designing and marketing. And then our IRB research study. So for this Gadgets and Gizmos presentation, we held it on the 6th of June. And let me show you a little clip from it, which is here. Okay. So from the presentation, I recorded a little bit of it. Yes, exactly. In response to someone's question. Major risk for falling, and like you said, can everyone hear that? Someone you know had fallen from slipping on a rug. Rugs can have curled edges. They can be ones that are just, there's not enough friction between the floor and the rug, and someone can slip on it. Maybe they have a walker and their walker slides across it. Many different things can happen. So, as she said, so next thing is the fun bingo. So we had made a manual on this bingo as well. And from that manual, here are the objectives. So the goal was to help in a very interactive way, help seniors better identify, so individualistically, look at their history around falls and their needs. And so this is, yes, it's for us to identify, but it was also for them to identify because it's kind of the idea of empowering them, right? And then we look at the risk factors that we did through the bingo, and I'll show you that in a moment. And then educating on different interventions that they can use. So initially, and I have the full presentation on this, that includes everything that we did. It was going to be the falls prevention bingo for the fall risk, and then support group and scrapbooking. Also the scrapbooking and role playing. So all of that was to help them understand their needs and identify their risk factors, and then come up with interventions and solutions for themselves. Given that, as you probably noticed, that sounds like a doozy. That sounds like too much for someone to do in an hour. So we focused on the falls prevention bingo and integrated all of this into the bingo. And how we did that, in this one, you see several of the risk factors that I pulled from journal articles, and those are all in my references too, at the end of this presentation. And so here are some of the core risk factors. I'm sure it looks very familiar to many of you. What we did was, rather than me say, I had told them a hint at it. So say, for example, poor vision. I had said something about, what is it that makes it hard for you to see things? So something as simple as that. And then they can say poor vision. Or I said, many times people trip over this because there is something about the floor that they haven't seen. And so that one was a little tricky for people, but they eventually figured out, oh, uneven floor. And it turned kind of into a support group because people talked about their past history with those falls. One person had said, my first fall was, the floor was uneven. I was outside of this senior center and I was talking with friends, and usually I pay really good attention, but that time I was just having a good time with my friends and I didn't notice there was this crack in the ground and I fell over it. And so there's things like that. And we went over, well, what are some solutions? And they pointed out, oh, well, I paid more attention. And so we mentioned that, yes, that is something that you can do. But as you know, that you can't always do that. So again, the PEO model, looking at not just the person, but the environment and how they do the activity. Yes, they can be more attentive. But what about if there's like some marking on the floor? If maybe the senior center could put a marking on the floor, that uneven floor, or not uneven floor, but like a color to contrast the colors, or to even put a like tape over it or something to help seniors notice that, oh, I don't want to go there. And then here we have here we have prizes. So I supplied some of the prizes with Emily's help on what to get. So guys, if you go to the Big Five store, or no, Five Below store, they have a lot of good goodies. A lot of it is lights and lights for the home. So here. So this is for your toothbrush. Oh, and it also lights up. You have one that lights up? Yeah. So this is an example of when I gave out the prizes. People came over and they chose their prizes, and I explained what it can be used for in the home as an intervention for preventing falls. So many times, this, for example, this toothbrush holder, or even I think someone already got it, but the bathroom toilet seat light. So, I mean, a light within the toilet seat. So that, for example, seniors oftentimes they were talking about how they had to use the bathroom often and they don't got time to turn on the light because they just got to use the bathroom. And some take medications that causes incontinence. And so what about if there's a light to guide them? There's already a light in the toilet. And when you open the toilet, of course, you can see it clearly. And then they know where to sit because the light will help guide them. So those are some tiny things that just under $5 that people can do. So this is for your. And then we have the PSA that we did, the public service announcements that were kind of like a marketing strategy for us to get more people interested in our study. And here are just research tidbits that I found and put into a kind of graphic for people to see. And then the big one is our IRB study, which took us at least 2 months in the beginning to get rolling because we had to go through a lot with the IRB. Who could participate in the study? Seniors and staff. We're looking for people who are 65 years or older, or an employee, someone from independent living facilities. They had to be able to have telecommunications. Both of the seniors had to have help with this, and they had to speak English. The data collection process was that we had done through Facebook groups, through the AOTA forums, through all the forums that we could find on seniors and caregiving, and social media for Instagram. One of the ways that we did the data collection, the recruitment, is cold calling. So we had gone to, this was an over 100-mile trip, going through many different places. I think I know it's at least 30 different places. I want to say maybe 50 because I even ventured out. And then I recorded it and transcribed the data, then did thematic analysis, looking for themes between between the seniors and the staff member. And then evaluation and result. What they both said stops falls. So they both are very active and they're very confident that they can prevent falls because they don't have clutter, they threw out all of their loose rugs, and for most of the time, they wear closed-toe shoes. They both stated they're aware of uneven surfaces and that their lighting is sufficient because they add task-specific lighting. So as you can see here, for example, like a lamp. Strengths and weaknesses. Contrast, low height shower lip. The laundry room was inside for Betty, whereas for Sam, it was not. So Sam stated it was actually a challenge to have to go do laundry, and it reduced how often she would go out and do her laundry. One has the alert cord. Both have grab bars in the shower, by the toilet, by the sink. So some fall risks that were observed among all three of them is that there's a division between the rug and the kitchen hardwood, tile vinyl floor. And as you can see, there's a little transition piece, but your hand can easily slip under that. And that is what caused the fall for Sam. Her only fall was because her walker had got caught underneath that surface. So leading us into what this all means. Now we've already talked about how grab bars are important by the toilet, sink, shower, but also by the bed for some. And then adding a shower lip and shower lip color, contrasting color, and low height. And then no clutter has been effective, as we've seen among all three. And the electrical outlets being placed in an easy access area. So these are the considerations we mentioned about the grab bars in other areas such as the bedroom. This is what Sam uses for reaching for her clothes and changing out her clothes. And then we have how our limitations. So how representative is this sample? Now, the reason they stated that the electrical outlets were conveniently placed could also be because their children helped them to plan where the furniture is going to go, so they wanted it closest to the electrical outlets. Their children did everything from labor and from planning of where everything's going to go, and their children come to help them once in a while. Now, not everyone has this support, so we have to keep that in mind. Not everyone is as active or as knowledgeable about falls. Maybe they haven't experienced falls. Maybe they don't have occupational therapy or physical therapy, or haven't had it. And telecommunication really screened out a lot of seniors who wanted to participate. And again, this was done as a convenience sampling, so keep that in mind. Now, what all this information does for us is it helps us see through a qualitative view the seniors' experience with activities around their home and how falls plays a role. As you saw, it reduces the desire to go do laundry if things are scary about her falling or her mobility. And then what can be done about all of this for future research? So we can look more into the very, very details, such as having cross grab bars. So one that is vertical, one that is horizontal, and looking at the lighting. And how we, Emily and I, will use this, use the information for the future is for program implementation and for a website that Emily is working on. Presentations for consultations for independent living facilities that Emily, as she mentioned, she's been doing consultations, and this can help further inform her work. All right, that is everything. So, questions, anyone?